Hey everyone, welcome back to another PNSO review. Today we take a look at Essien, the Spinosaurus. So I've had quite the frustrating time trying to get these new PNSOs in from Amazon. Most of the figures have been coming out of order. Figures I've ordered later are coming sooner than figures I've ordered, weeks before those other figures. And some have just disappeared entirely. For example, the Sauropelta, it got delivered to the post office the next town over from me on December 7th. It was en route to the post office in my town, which is just a 5 mile difference, and it never made it there. I have no clue what happened to it. Probably got stuck in a black hole somewhere or just sacrificed to the shipping gods. And the Corythosaurus, which I ordered at the end of October, never left customs and then somehow made its way back to China and is now leaving China again to come here. So maybe I'll get that figure sometime in 2022. And all the other figures, except for the new Tyrannosaurus Rex, are in the US. I just have no clue when I'm going to get those. I understand there's a pandemic going on and this is the holiday shopping season. I'm just venting. It's just been kind of just aggravating that these figures, I have no clue where a couple of them are. So anyways, let's get back to this Spinosaurus. So this new Spinosaurus is now part of the Prehistoric Animal Models line. It retails for just under $40. I'll leave a link to Amazon if you want to order this figure for yourself. And good luck with that. I hope you get it much easier than I did. So before we take a closer look at the figure, let's just go over the packaging really quick. The box is quite large compared to the size of the figure you get. It's positioned in the box like this. It's held in by a plastic insert. So if you have no clue what the size of this figure is, you're expecting a much bigger figure until you pull it out of the box. But we'll get into the size of this figure a little bit later on in the review. On the front of the package, you have a beautiful full art picture of Essien with the new updated paddle tail, which is all the rage right now because Spinosaurus needs to change what it looks like every year with all the new discoveries. And then on the top of the box, you have a close-up of Essien's head. And then just like every other PNSO figure, you get a nice little informational brochure with some info about Spinosaurus. You have some nice pictures of the figure inside this pamphlet along with the reconstruction with that new paddle tail, and my camera does not want to zoom in. So anyways, enough about the packaging. Let's take a closer look at this cool looking figure. So let's start out with a nice 360-degree view of the Spinosaurus. This figure is absolutely fantastic. The paintwork, sculpted in detail are absolutely great. I think this is one of the nicest painted PNSO figures I've ever seen. Normally with PNSO, their prototypes do not look really like what you get in hand, but I have to say the paint job on this pretty much matches what you see from the prototype images. The main color is just mixtures of brown and yellows with these dark markings. I think it just looks really, really well. And then you can have this nice, beautiful paddle tail, which is the newest discovery on this animal, and it's really well done. You have a little bit of red on the crest, and it just looks great. And I love the dynamic pose that this figure is in. The tail is sweeping to the side. The head is turned all the way around like it's roaring at an intruder in its territory. And then that hand, just the way the claws are tucked under, it's resting on its knuckle. It makes it look very natural looking. This figure almost reminds me of a Papo figure. It just has that dynamic pose and all that beautiful scale work and great paint job. So yeah, this is just a fantastic piece. So let's just do a couple quick measurements. This figure is about 3 3/4 inches tall to the highest spine on the sale, and about 9 1/4 inches long. But if you measure the figure along the curve of the neck and tail, the figure is actually 11 1/2 inches long. So Spinosaurus in real life was close to 50 feet long. So using that 11 1/2 inch measurement, that'll put this figure somewhere in that 150 scale range. So yeah, it is a small figure, and that is really my only complaint with this figure. I like to display my large theropods in scale with each other, and this Spinosaurus just looks puny compared to like all my T-Rex and Giganotosaurus figures in my collection. All right, let's zoom in and take a look at some of the finer details on this figure, starting with this fantastic head sculpt. This is a really well done Spinosaurus head. The crest is decked out in some dark red paint. All the teeth are painted in beautifully with white paint, no sloppy paint on this figure. The eyes are painted in gold with a black pupil, very reminiscent of Rebor, and this figure does have an articulated jaw, and it is really well done. It is probably the best articulated jaw on the very few PNSO figures that have this feature, and it reminds me of Papo. I always say Papo has the best articulated jaws in the business, and the articulation on this figure is on par with Papo. And then opening the mouth up, you can see some nice detail inside the mouth. The gums are decked out in a glossy pink paint to give it that wet look, and there's some really nice detail in the back of the throat. My camera's not really picking up because there's a shadow cast in there, but there's some nice detail in the back over there. So yeah, this head sculpt looks absolutely fantastic. Just look at all that beautiful scale detail over it. Tiny, tiny bit of shrink wrapping around the orbit, but it really isn't that bad looking. You can see the nostrils sculpted in right there. And then going down to the throat, you can see all these beautiful large scales sculpted in. And turn the figure over, you can see all those large scales and scale variation along the stomach all the way down to the tip of the tail. And then turn the figure over. The head is on a very thick and powerful looking neck. The body is quite wide, and even the base of the tail has some width to it. So this is definitely a very meaty looking Spinosaurus. Moving up to the sail is beautifully done on this figure. You can see all these large scales where the spines are. Then in between them on the actual sail part is all these small scales. It looks absolutely fantastic. Then you have this row of larger scales for the outline of the sail, and that is done in a cream color, and the main sail is done with mixtures of orange and yellow. I think that just looks absolutely fantastic with these dark black blotches mixed in. Just absolutely fantastic. I love the way the sail looks in this figure. It has a very tactile and textured feel to it. And then going down to the body has a lot of beautiful scale detail. You can see all these large osteoderm rows sculpted in, and then going down to the front hands, the arms are very, very powerful looking on this animal, very thick and muscular. And then look at the size of that thumb claw on this figure. That is probably the largest looking thumb claw I've seen sculpted on any Spinosaurus figure, and I think that looks absolutely fantastic. Then going down to this hand right here, this is the hand that this figure is resting on, and I love how it's tucked into the side and the animal's resting on its knuckle. It looks much more natural looking. I know a lot of people get bent out of shape. That Spinosaurus is resting on its hand, but you're really not going to pull off a bipedal figure the way this animal is designed. It's just not going to work unless this figure is mounted on the base. So you're going to have to live with that these Spinosaurus figures are going to be resting on its hands. You can see all those nice black stripes along the body mixing in with this cream color and orange and brown. Looks absolutely great. There's some patch of large scales right around the hip region. You can see the puny back legs are beautifully sculpted. The toe claws are just hilariously small compared to the hand claws on this figure. And then this part right here is the reason you're going to be picking up the Spinosaurus, because it has the updated paddle tail, which was recently discovered, and they did a great job on this. Just look at all that nice scale detail. I know I keep talking about the scale detail in this figure, but it's like definitely the most distinguishing thing about this. They just did a great job sculpting this, and just love all the large scales and how it goes up to this very fine textured pebbly look. And then turn the figure over, and yes, it does have its little cloaca slit, which is always a bonus for us accuracy freaks. And yeah, this figure is just absolutely fantastic. I think this is definitely one of the best Spinosaurus figures on the market right now. All right, let's move on with some comparisons. First up is the old Essien that came out about a couple years ago from PNSO, and you can see the old one absolutely dwarfs this new one, and that is my biggest issue with this figure. I like my Spinosaurus figures to be large. It is the longest carnivorous dinosaur ever discovered, and just having it in a figure this small just doesn't feel like it does this animal justice. So yeah, I kind of wish that we got an Essien in this size scale with this updated look. But I have a feeling that PNSO may do that. The museum quality line has been awfully quiet this year. It's been all prehistoric animal models, other than the new T-Rex that they announced a couple of days ago. So I would not put it past PNSO to release a larger version of this updated Spinosaurus sometime in the very near future, because they did do us dirty with releasing the third release of Wilson, knowing that they had a much more accurate T-Rex that was going to be released in a couple months. And next up, here it is with the GR Toys Spinosaurus, which was the first Spinosaurus figure on the market with that new paddle tail look. Safari just came out with one too, and I believe it's roughly about the same size as this one. So if you're looking for a large Spinosaurus with the updated look to scale with most of your collection, definitely go with the GR Toys one. It's in that roughly 135 scale range. And lastly, for Spinosaurus figures, here it is with the Papo limited edition one. You can see the theme here. All these other Spinosaurus figures that took out are large, and they just command a presence on your shelf. I just feel like this little guy's just going to get lost in the display. And next up, here it is with the Wilson T-Rex version 3, which will be very, very obsolete as soon as that new T-Rex comes in that I just recently ordered. And you can just see this Spinosaurus is just way, way, way too small to scale with this T-Rex. And here it is with the Eofauna Giganotosaurus. So if you want to display the big three like this, it's just not going to work. You're going to have to go with the GR Toy Spinosaurus, or unless PNSO comes out with a larger version of this figure. And lastly, here it is with some of its release mates from the Prehistoric Animal Models line. Here it is with the Borrella Pelta. And here it is with the awesome looking Lambeosaurus. And lastly, here it is with the Pachyrhinosaurus. So yeah, the Prehistoric Animal Models line is shaping up to be absolutely fantastic. So final thoughts on this new Spinosaurus. I think this figure is absolutely fantastic. It is the best of the three paddle-tail Spinosaurs that we've gotten this year. I have not gotten my hands yet on the new Safari Spinosaurus. They're supposed to be sending me one relatively soon, but I did watch Spino Dude's review on that figure, and yeah, the PNSO one is definitely the best of the three we've gotten so far this year. The sculpting and detail is fantastic. The paint work is probably the best PNSO has done so far. And I love the dynamic pose on this figure. I love how the head is turned to the side with the tail sweeping. And just the way that hand looks resting with the knuckle crunched up. It just looks absolutely fantastic. Very lifelike and dynamic looking. And like I said, my only issue with this figure is the size of it. I just wish it was closer to that 135 scale range. 150 scale, not a lot of people collect 150 scale. But if you're a collector that does not have a lot of room and like collecting smaller versions of figure, then this figure would definitely fit very well in your collection. So I'm still holding out hope that PNSO will release a larger version of this sometime in the near future. Like I said, I would not put it past them. And like I said at the beginning of the review, this figure is available on Amazon for just under $40. Link is in the description. So that would do it for the review. Hopefully the rest of the other PNSO figures I ordered eventually show up. Thoughts and prayers for that Corythosaurus that is just lost in limbo. So as always, if you're enjoying the content on this channel, show your support by hitting that subscription button just below the video. Each subscription helps out the channel tremendously and it's greatly appreciated. And I'll see you guys for the next one.